It's your boy Sean here with the Polite Company Network, where we never talk about politics or religion. Today, it's been 24 hours, and we get to award 1,000 internet points to Arminius and Ron Mulhorn, who both got yesterday's pop quiz correct. Now, the pop quiz was asking, what was the first command that God gave mankind in Genesis? Now, some of you ended up saying, work the garden and keep it. Pretty good answer. Another of you said to name all the animals. Very close. You're very close, but wrong. The first command that God gives man is found in chapter 1, the creation of the sixth day, where God creates man, and he says to be fruitful and multiply. Now, chapter 1 and chapter 2 has historically given some people fits where they're like, oh, God creates man in chapter 1, and then chapter 2 he creates Adam. Hey, what's with that? Is that two creation stories? Is that two races of man? No. What happens in Hebraic literature is that you see a situation where the writer does the big picture first and then gives a specific picture. So, chapter 1, God creates the cosmos. He creates the heavens and the earths, and he's separating, and he creates the waters, and he creates the dry land, and then he creates all the animals and all the animals in the water, all the animals in the land, all the animals, blah, the sea, and then man. And that's big picture. And then chapter 2 is little picture. God creates Adam. You see this also in chapter 10 and 11. This is after the ark lands and Noah's family gets out. Chapter 10 talks about all of the nations that come out of Noah's family. So all the descendants make all of the nations that come out of the family of Noah. But then you have chapter 11, which talks about the gathering of all the people at the Tower of Babel and then the dispersion. And so a lot of people are saying, well, this is kind of Quentin Tarantino-ish, where you're getting one story and then backstory, then whatever. But that's just how Hebraic literature works out. You have big picture and then little picture. This is what's happening. And so same thing with Genesis chapter 1 and chapter 2. Big picture, creation of everything. Little picture, creation of Adam. And so don't be confused by it, but the first command God gives mankind is be fruitful and multiply. Why is this important? Well, it's very important because a lot of people don't know what they're supposed to be doing right now. Or, there's actually a fairly large industry of doing eschatology, what's going to happen later, the latter times, the end times. A lot of people, they want to read to the end, but they didn't do the hard work at the beginning. And so they want the eschatology, but you got to start with protology, the first things, the beginning, the study of the beginning. And that's why chapter 1 is so important, because it gives the reader an understanding of what biblical anthropology is. Biblical anthropology means what the Bible says about mankind. And so, obviously, the sixth day of understanding the creation of man and what God intends man to do is a really good start. Now, further, other than the imperative to be fruitful and multiply, you also have the explanation that God creates man, male, and female. This is important because, well, it's 2023, and apparently that's a bit of an issue. People are trying to parse sex from gender and all this other stuff, and it's really interesting times, but the Bible says it plain and clear, male and female. Now, this is important, of course, because we live in a fallen society where there are multiple chromosomes and there's people with gender dysphoria and all this other stuff. But the Bible is very clear that the intention is male and female. Now, this is important because all people are intended to be fruitful and multiply. This is let's say, the underlying imperative for all mankind. Now, I know some of you are going to say, hey, women can be infertile. Their womb can be closed, as the Bible calls multiple women, and that is a result of the fall, yes. However, that doesn't mean that you're still not expected to understand that this is why mankind is created. Yes, sin and the ravages of sin are bad, but all those that are infertile, their hope, their desire is for creating children, creating image bearers of God, and raising them in the fear and admonition of God. And so we can't really confuse desire from restriction. And I think that's a big issue, because even today we have a lot of people who are dinks, like double income, no kids, within the church. These are couples that are married, might have, two incomes, and they spend their vacations and their money doing whatever they want, and they refuse to have kids because it gets in the way of a good time, it gets in the way of their travel plans, it gets in the way of them having weekends or whatever. And very few pastors are willing to speak out against this, but they need to, because they're ignoring or blatantly disobeying the fundamental structure of that marriage and that fundamental imperative given in Genesis 1. And not a lot of pastors have the testicular fortitude to do that. And I'm telling you, it's wrong. If you are married, the expectation is for you to have children. Plain and simple. Boom. And there's that. And if you want to know my opinions on getting your tubes tied or getting vasectomies, you can only guess. You'd probably be right where I land on that. The idea that you can choose to stop having children when you're biologically able to within the confines of your marriage, that's a level of disobedience. And they're like, oh, I already got 3 kids. Oh, I can't afford another. Well, choose who you will serve today. Will it be God, or will it be Mammon, the idol of wealth and money? And which one are you going to choose? A lot of people say, well, I'm already making the most amount of money that I can in my job. I can't afford another child. What God do you serve? Do you serve the God who provides for you, the God of provision? He looks after the birds in the air and everything else, but you think he's not going to provide for his children? Come on. And so a lot of people are really not living a faithful life because they're worried about losing the comfort of the dollar. And with inflation today, the dollar provides very little comfort. And so it would be wiser to have children and to honor God and to raise them in the fear and admonition of the law. And that's where I am today. So our pop quiz yesterday did have a point, and I will be giving you another pop quiz here in a few hours. So, hey guys, thank you for tuning in. God bless you. Good breeding wine, and have a good one. All right.